Welcome everybody. In this video, I'll teach you guys how you can always beat Syndra in mid lane. I am a Syndra main and I'm going to be sharing all the secrets of beating her. Even though it pains me, I need to educate you guys about how to beat this completely overpowered champion. So let's get into it. And I'm not going to do it in a way that I'm going to talk about the boring stuff. I'm going to share the Syndra main secrets. So let's talk about Syndra's game plan in the early game. Syndra is a champion that is not extremely strong until she reaches her Q upgrade. And she generally reaches her Q upgrade at level 7. And she gets stacks. The moment she hits 40 stacks, she gets the Q upgrade, right? The way she gets stacks is by hitting you with 2 spells in a row. So a WQ or a QE. That gives her a stack. She also gets a stack when she hits a cannon. And she gets 5 stacks every time she levels up. So average Syndra's reach it at level 7. Bad Syndra's reach it at level 8. Keep that in mind. Before that, you generally want to attack her, because the moment she reaches a Q upgrade, it's extremely hard to attack her. And the way that we attack Syndra is by playing the cooldown trading game. Now let me explain what I mean with that. Syndra has extremely long cooldowns in the game. Q, 7 seconds, okay? W, 12 seconds. E, 15 seconds. These are long cooldowns. And you want to understand that from these spells, all of them are skill shots. So the mindset that you need to have versus Syndra is that if she lands her spells, you're going to get blasted, because there's of course a way that she can miss it. And that means that the spell needs to be more powerful so that if it lands, it actually, has some use, that this champ's not underpowered. So if she lands her skill shots, you're going to get blasted. But the way that we abuse the fact that she has long cooldowns and she has skill shots means that we're going to play the cooldown trading game, in which that we are playing this lane with the mindset to bait out her spells. So for that, once again, we need to go back towards Syndra's perspective and understand how she wants to be playing out the lane. She wants to create a slow pushing wave state and then start harassing you whenever you're last hitting minions or whenever you're standing still. Because whenever you're standing still, that's when it's easy for her to out attack. So the basic game plan that I'm having whenever I'm playing into Syndra is I'm going to contest her onto the wave push. I'm not going to make it easy for her to then push the waves into me. I'm going to stand away from low health minions so she cannot AoE me plus the minions at the same time. And then I'm going to look to try and run in and out of her range to bait out her spell, especially at times when I'm going to be forced to last it. Now, that will not be a perfect thing to do. You will sometimes mess up. But if you try to do that, and it will succeed every once in a while, you'll buy yourself a lot of space the moment you bait out a spell. Because you got to think about it. The moment you bait out one spell, for example, one Q, you now have 7 seconds of time where you can take up space in the lane, move closer towards this Syndra, and then make it harder for her later down the line to land the next skill shot. Because whenever you're closer towards the enemy champion and you've taken up space in the lane, you can now retreat while then CSing your minions. So let's take a look at how this player does it right here. This is Closer, really good Korean challenger player. You see what he does here is that he dances in and out of Syndra range. He dodges out the spells, W. He acts as if he moves into the Syndra. And then the moment he gets in the range, he clicks diagonally towards the side. This is how you dodge Syndra spells, guys. You act as if you click into her, like you're going to trade, and then you click diagonally to the side at the time when you anticipate her to throw her spell. That's how you do it. That's the entire game plan. And the moment then she then uses the spell, we now know that she has incredibly long cooldowns, right? We now know the cooldowns, and that's when we're going to take up space in the lane and push her out. And she's either then going to be forced to take a massively losing trade, or she's going to be forced to lose minions. And you see that right here, we do such a good job at understanding the cooldown of Syndra, right? That we're even just not giving her the free space in the lane. Once again, we dodge out on her Q, and once again, we push her back away from the minions. Syndra is a champion that does not want to run into you and then land her Q. She wants to already be in range, and then she can step back and let you run into her Qs. That's how she wants to be playing out the lane. And if she cannot do that, landing her Qs are very hard and very obvious. Because if she's running towards you, you see when she's actually clicking into you. And that's when it's extremely easy to anticipate her throwing her spells. And that's when you have the idea of that you can then swap up your movement and actually dodge out on it. So this is basically the game plan, levels 1 to 6. The moment she reaches level 7, right? She's a whole different beast, because Syndra can now use her spells on the wave in such a way that she can basically grab a priority plus trade onto you every single time. Because the moment she gets her Q upgrade, her trading patterns change. Because that extra Q means that she can now QE from longer distance into WQ. And she can just nuke you and nuke the wave at the same time. And there's not much counterplay. So my recommendation into Syndra is to go Mercs. Mercs completely block this trading pattern. Because Mercs gives you tenacity. And that way, she cannot do that longer range QE into WQ combo. Because your tenacity allows you to run away from the WQ. And this Mercs is just going to then save you a lot of damage. So Mercs is one of the best items that you can buy into Syndra. Of course, Syndra is also a long cooldown, burst-oriented mage. So the value of MR is insanely high versus her. If you're struggling into Syndra and you're not building Mercs, the first thing that you're going to need to do is start building Mercs, and you're already going to have a way easier time. Okay? So let's get to the point where Syndra is actually going to reach her Q upgrade. We should be slightly ahead at this point. If we're not, then it's worth looking at the early lane and figure out how we actually got to that position. And really good Syndras, what they'll do is they'll start pre-placing the Qs in the wave. And then you need to kind of like stand outside of the range of her line and where the Q can fly. So what I personally really like to do is I personally really like to stand outside of the wave and then dance the tango with her, where a lot of Syndras will then dance up right here. And if she then tries to get us in the same line, I try to move outside of that line, but either moving down or moving up. It doesn't really matter. I personally like moving down of the lane because that's when it's really hard for Syndra to both AoE the minions and hit you at the same time. And it's easier to then get close to her. So I like moving towards the side of the lane. We got to keep in mind that Syndra in the end is a control mage, right? So what does a control mage want to do? They want to take control of the lane by taking good quality trades or taking control of the wave. And then they want to get vision control around one side of the map, heavily ward and lean, and make sure that they're first towards place. The way that Syndra really explodes as a champion is if she can play those styles where she is first, where you are running into her. So if you're ever in a position where she gets first move into place, don't feel the need to like chase after her or run into choke points, into neutral objectives. Make sure that you then trade off the neutral objective, cross map and trade onto the other side, because otherwise you're going to be playing her game. And that's when she's just completely annihilating you, of course. So we see right here, the moment you get ahead versus Syndra and she cannot grab up control of the wave and she cannot access good quality Q usage, that's when she's getting completely blasted. Now, final thing to note, Syndra is a champion that is really good versus certain types of threat. She's really good versus linear threat. She's really bad versus non-linear threat. So if you have the likes of Nocturne, non-linear threat, or you have like, let's take another example, Pike, pretty hard champion for her to deal with, a lot of mobility, ways to dodge out and avoid her E. Those are like the type of games where you want to like try to focus down this Syndra on mid and just perma gank her, because her E doesn't work that good into her. If you're playing with a Trundle, for example, don't bother, because you know she's just gonna E the Trundle away. The gank threat's actually not gonna be that high. So if you were looking for good champs to pick into Syndra, it's champs that have non-linear dashing spells that can get onto her. Really good examples is Zed, Katarina, very tough champs to verse, but even a champ like LeBlanc with an immense amount of dashes can sometimes be a really hard matchup for her. Try to attack her onto her onto her vulnerability, and make sure to attack her in the first few waves. And if she gets ahead as Syndra and you do not have these non-linear threat champs, you're gonna get blasted and there's almost no counterplay. But Mercs is a must, and yeah, I've shared all the non-obvious secrets on how to beat Syndra in mid lane. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. And if you struggle versus Syndra, I can guarantee that you struggle into Victor. So for that matchup, check it out right here.